just got this IM from attorney Andrew, and this is a good way to start. You guys are good folks to talk about this. He says, Sam, you have had second thoughts on Bernie giving a speech at the beginning of his campaign on the meaning of democratic socialism. Let me just correct you. It's not second thoughts. In real time, I thought that was a waste of cachet and of energy. But nevertheless, you said it was unnecessary and that if pressed, he should say something like, if a blank thing is socialist, then call me a socialist. Tell me, what does it mean for someone to be progressive? What has happened to the term progressive, given the lack of affirmative definition by anyone with authority on what progressive means? I don't know. I think it is a sloppy way of saying to the left side of the Democratic Party, progressive. And it is completely irrelevant to me what its value is in signifying. If, for instance, you talk about the Progressive Caucus, it is, anybody can sign up to be the Progressive Caucus. I think the Progressive Caucus should impose specific benchmarks on what policies you support to be a member. Like, there's some membership requirements. It's not just you write a $4,000 check. It is, you got to support Medicare for all or whatever it is they decide it is so that we have a sense of it. But that's almost exactly my point, why I have always sort of, not been terribly interested in or terribly concerned about what I call myself, because you make it a set of policies that you subscribe to. And, particularly in terms of communicating to the American public, the fact that you've adopted a term that may or may not, because there's a lot of refutation. Like, there's a lot of people say, well, Bernie's not really a socialist, or he's a social democrat, or he's this. There is no term that you're going to get that everybody's going to agree with it anyways. So all you're doing is giving people an opportunity to take a shot at you. And I'm talking about in politics.
Well, Sam, just quickly though, like he'd identified himself as that in the past, right? So I would imagine that the strategy was, let's get out in front of it, explain it to people so that it's digestible, because he was going to be called a socialist, communist, whatever. But I agree with you about the Progressive Caucus. What are there, like 100 members around, and it's the biggest tent ever and half of them don't belong?
But I think you're right. They were trying to get out ahead of this, but I'm saying that was silly, because somebody could come in and say, you're a socialist. And he could say, if a socialist means that I want healthcare for everybody, fine. Call me what you want. Yeah. Call me a socialist. Call me a Trotskyite. Call me, it doesn't matter. If a socialist means that I want everybody to have a good paying job so that they're not, or that I want to make sure that everybody has a place to live or that everybody has something to eat, then fine. You can call me a socialist. You call me a Reaganite. I don't care what you call me. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to happen. And that's the way I think you should have handled it.
I actually, and I said this at the time as you did, it was tough to say things publicly criticizing the campaign because we were supportive of the campaign, but it just reeked of political naivete. You're running for president and it's about you have to expand your base. And the second you start attaching labels, which up until that point have been seen in America as extremist, even though we all know he doesn't stand for anything extremist, it's very, very much, his policies are very much in the line of a New Deal Democrat, right? It's about expanding your base. And I think what was really odd was there's some stuff like politics 101, like you learn it when you're an organizer, like first day of organizing. And you don't do that. You don't give a big speech on democratic socialism. And I really do think that it hurt him. I know it's really
I wouldn't give a speech on any concept as a president. I don't care if it's like I'm a neoliberal, and neoliberals believe
that's right.
Like, why are you expending your political capital?
That's right.
On trying to educate people about a term that is completely irrelevant. Like whether he runs and wins and he's called himself a democratic socialist or not is completely irrelevant to what he's going to be able to do or not do or this and that. And that's the only reason why.
Well, I think it wasn't his brand either. Sorry, Emma.
No, it's okay. It's the 3-person weave. It's tough. But I think just the thing that stuck out to me about that point also was when he doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on the Castro thing. that was something also I think was indicative of some of the weaknesses that we're discussing here, where you could display some political savvy in order to pander. You don't need to pander to the degree that Joe Biden or Pete Buttigieg panders, right? But you could display some of that political savvy in campaigning as opposed to, quadrupling down on what you're labeled as.
But I also, what was really strange about it to me was it didn't even seem like Bernie. Like, I don't know Bernie in 2016 as being somebody who slapped a label on himself. And, if he was asked, he would refer to it, but he wouldn't go out there and champion it. It seemed like it was very forced. To me, Bernie was always about the ideas. The ideas were what made him, appeal to somebody in a red state, appeal to somebody who may have voted for Reagan, appeal to Rust Belt voters, all the voters that he needed to build in this coalition, older voters, younger voters, a multi-generational, multiracial coalition. You do that by speaking about ideas that appeal to more people. And it just, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was him. I feel like a lot of the 2020 campaign wasn't his voice. And we were all very involved in 2016. I would love to match up speeches between the two.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that last part about that speech not being him, but I'm not sure about that. But
I think it's who his identity is. But I don't think it was him. I don't think
my sense is not that there was people in the campaign saying you should go out, and I don't think, but I could be wrong. But Emma, your point about the Castro thing is like, yeah, like you don't have to win every argument.
Yeah, I said it at the time, and I got flack for it too. But
of course, it's just
God forbid we question anything on the left,
right?
That's it. It would be really interesting, maybe in your second term. In the 7th year of your second term, you're like, you know what? I think we should revisit the question of Castro. And while we're at it, we should also, we're going to make everyone aware of what's happening with Allende, what happened with Allende and Pinochet and the U.S. government's involvement. But when you're trying to run for president, you got to keep your eye on the war and not fight one of the smallest, tiniest, most least relevant battles that are out there, even if you're right. Even if you're right about that, which I think he was, it's like, keep your eyes on the prize, as it were.
Right. I think there's value in understanding what you should not budge on and what you should massage, that it seemed to be lacking in the campaign.